We continue now at the top of Daf Mem Hey Amud Aleph and Meseches Sanhedrin. This is Sanhedrin Daf 45a. The Gemara says, Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, Ha'ish mechasen oso perek echad milafanav. When they stone a man, they cover him with a cloth in the front. V'isha, and by a woman, shnei prakim, they use two cloths. Bein milfanah, bein milachareh, they cover her in the front and the back. Mimnei shakula erva, because she's considered totally erva. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, this is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. The Chachamim Omrim, and the Chachamim say, Ha'ish niskal orim, a man is stoned when he's naked. Ve'ein ha'isha niskelas aruma, but a woman is not stoned when she is naked. And Rashi explains Perek Echad, Kolomar ma'at mimenu milafanav. The first explanation of Rashi is Perek Echad just means he's covered a little bit in the front. V'yesh omrim Perek Chatichas Beged, and some say that Perek means a small cloth. And the Gemara continues, My time mayu d'Rabbanan. What's the reason of the Rabbanan that they say a woman is not stoned naked? Amar Krutz, because the pasuk says V'rugmu oso. It says they stone him. Mai oso. What does it mean him? Ilema oso v'lo oso. If you're going to say that it means that they can only stone a man to death, but a woman is not liable to that death penalty, that's not true, Vaksib, but it's written in the pasuk, it says you take out the man or the woman. A woman can get the death penalty as well by stoning. And so therefore, Elamayo, so rather, what does the pasuk mean when it says oso below ksuso? It means that when a male is stoned to death, it's without his clothing, he's stoned naked, ha'osa bichsusa. But the Rabbanan hold that when a woman is stoned to death, she's still wearing her clothing. And the Gemara continues, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda says, oso below ksuso, when it says oso without his garments, lo shna ish v'lo shna ish, it actually doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman. According to Rabbi Yehuda, both are stoned without clothing on. But the Gemara continues, L'meimra d'Rabbanan chayishi l'hirhura v'Rabbi Yehuda lo chayish l'hirhura. Does this mean to say that the Rabbanan are concerned with the thoughts that people will have when they see the woman if she has no clothing on, and that's why they say she should be wearing clothing? And Rabbi Yehuda is not concerned with the thoughts that the men will have who see the woman when she's not wearing clothing. But we actually learn the exact opposite. It's Rabbi Yehuda who's concerned with the thoughts of people who see, and the Rabbanan are not concerned. The Tanan, because we learned in the Mishnah, this is with regards to a sota. It says HaKohen oches bivgadeho. It says that the Kohen, he grabs her clothing. Again, talking about the sota. Im nikru, if they tear, they tear. Im niframu, if they separate, they separate. Ad shemagalas liba, he does that until he reveals her heart, until he reveals her chest. V'soser esar, and he undoes her hair. That's the opinion of the Rabbanan. And Rabbi Yehuda says, if her heart is beautiful, lo haya megaleu, then he doesn't reveal it. Vim haya sara noy, and if she has beautiful hair, lo haya soser, then he doesn't undo it. And so you see, it's actually Rabbi Yehuda who's concerned with hirhura. He's concerned with the thoughts that people will have when they see this beautiful woman. And the Gemara answers, Amar Rabba says, Hasam hainu taima, over there by sota, the reason is as follows. Shema teitze mi bezin zakah. There's another concern over there, because it's possible that the sota will actually be innocent. She might actually leave the court innocent, and she's not going to die. And now they all saw her, v'yiskaru ba pir chikuna, and then the young men of the kuna, they're going to have thoughts about her, and that's why Rabbi Yehuda has a concern specifically by sota. But over here, hamiktala, over here, she's going to die anyway. We're talking about a woman that's being stoned, so Rabbi Yehuda is not concerned. But the Gemara says, maybe you'll say that the men will have thoughts, and then they'll turn those thoughts to other women. Amar Rabba says, Gemiri, there's a tradition, Ein Yetzer Hara Sholet, Ela B'misha Ein Avros. The Yetzer Hara does not rule except on what the person's eyes saw. If he saw one woman, that's not going to cause a desire for a different woman. But the Gemara continues, Amar Rava says, Rabbi Yehuda Kasha, we only have a contradiction within Rabbi Yehuda. The Rabbanan Lo Kasha, we don't have a contradiction within the Rabbanan. The Rabbanan also, there's a contradiction, because the Rabbanan are not concerned with the tznius when it comes to sota, but they are concerned by the stoning. And the Gemara says, Rava says, Rabbi Yehuda Lo Kasha Kidishonin. The contradiction within Rabbi Yehuda is not difficult. That's like the answer that we gave above. Again, it's possible by the sota that she'll be found innocent. She might survive. That's not true in the case of the stoning. The Rabbanan Nami Lo Kasha. And the contradiction within the Rabbanan is also not difficult, because Amar Kra, because the pasuk says, there's a pasuk in Yechezkel in reference to the sota. It says, V'nivasru kol hanoshim v'lo sa'asena kizimaschena. It says that the other women are going to see what happens to her, and then they won't do what she did. They'll be warned, and so therefore, in order to create that warning, in order to create a situation where the women will not want to copy what the sota does, so we humiliate the sota according to the Rabbanan, and that's why we're not concerned with how she looks. We're not concerned with tearing the clothing. But over here, when you're talking a woman who's being stoned, ein lach yisar gadol mizeh, there's no greater musr than this. It's enough that she's being stoned. There's no reason to take her clothing off as well. And the Gemara continues, v'chitema li'avid batarti, but maybe you'll say it'll be even more of a musr if we do both. We stone her, and also she's not wearing clothing. And the Gemara says to that, Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba bar Avua, Amar Kra. Rav Nachman says that Rabba bar Avua says that the pasuk says, v'yahavta l'recha kamocha. It says you have to love your friend like yourself. Borer lo misa yafa. You have to choose a proper death, and it is more of a respectable death if the woman would be wearing her clothing according to the Rabbanan. But the Gemara continues, Lema de Rav Nachman Tanoihi, but if that's the case, it seems like Rav Nachman, should we say Rav Nachman's a machlokas Tanoim, because apparently Rabbi Yehuda is not concerned that she's wearing clothing when we stone her. He's not concerned with a misa yafa. And the Gemara says, Lo, no, not necessarily. The kuliyalma islu de Rav Nachman. It could be everybody agrees with Rav Nachman that we want a misa yafa. V'hacha b'haka miflagi, but the machlokas is as follows, Mar savar bizyone deinish adifa leitzvei minicha degufe. One says that the humiliation by the person is more preferred than the actual suffering of the body. The idea over here is that when the person is stoned naked, it's actually less physical suffering because they die faster. However, it's more suffering psychologically, so to speak. Umar Savar, and the other one holds nicha degufe adif mi bizyone. It's preferred the body suffering over the humiliation. And Rashi explains, according to the Rabbanan, v'nivosru kol hanashim. Again, all of the women are supposed to take musr, and that's why we tear the clothing. V'imlo hayu mekalkelan osaf. They didn't do this to her. Ein kan yisr wouldn't really be a good musr. Im teitze zakol. Let's say, for example, she leaves innocent. There's no musr. V'anu miskavnim levay. We actually want to embarrass her. Even if she's innocent, we want to embarrass her. Because even if she's innocent, she still acted like a prutza. It was still a situation where they warned her, and she went into seclusion, even if she didn't actually have relations with that man. But hach over here, the mikdala, where she's already being killed, there's no greater musr than this anyway. It has nothing to do with hear. It has to do with the musr. And Rashi continues again, according to Rav Nachman, misa yafa, we want to have a good death. Velosav azeyu, we don't want the person to be embarrassed. And then the Gemara said it could be a machlokas. What's preferred? Bizyone deinish adifle. When it comes to the humiliation, that's preferred. Kilomar, what that means to say is gadol be'einav tvei. It's something that's more important to the person, minicha degufe, than the physical pain. Hilkach noach lo shetisaka b'levusha, meaning it's better for her to be stoned while wearing the clothing. Betisha lamos, even though it's going to delay the death, it'll be more painful. Ve'afagav de'ikat tzara degufa velo tivza osala avshita. Even though there's a physical pain, but it's better than being embarrassed to be unclothed. Hilkach zuhi b'riras misa yafet. Therefore, that's considered to be the preferable death, according to the Rabbanan. But Rashi continues, according to Rabbi Yehuda, nicha degufa adiflei. It's the physical body, gadol be'einav. That's more important to the person. Tfei bizyon. It's more important than the embarrassment. Hilkach keshetavshitena zuhi yafela. Therefore, according to Rabbi Yehuda, when you take off the clothing, it's actually preferred for her because there's less physical pain. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Beis Haskila hayagova shtei komos. The Beis Haskila, it was the height of two ordinary people. Echad min ha'edim, one of the witnesses, dochvo al masnav, he pushes the convicted person by his hips. He pushes him off this height. Nepach al libo, if he turns over on his heart, meaning if he's face down, hofcho al masnav, so then they turn him over that he should be face up. V'yemeis bo yotz, and if he dies by pushing him off from this height, then that's it. V'imla, but if not, hasheni notel so Evan, the second witness takes a stone, v'nosno al libo, and throws it at his heart. In meisban, if he dies from that stone, yotza, so then the obligation is fulfilled. V'imlav, and if not, if he's still alive, regimasu b'chol Yisrael, then everybody that's present, the whole congregation, they throw stones at him. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, yad ha'edim tiyabo barishon al hamiso, first the hands of the witnesses is against him to kill him. V'yad kol ha'am b'achrona, but then everybody at the end, if he's still alive, they all throw stones at him. And Rashi explains, again, the height which they're pushing him off is the height of two ordinary people, and they throw him from there to the earth. They turn him over, because if he's face up, that's considered more degrading. And the Gemara says, Tana was taught, if you add his height, meaning if the height of the area you're pushing him off is the height of two people, and then you add his height as well, he's actually being pushed off from a height of three people. high? Do you really need it to be so high up? Or a minute, but we have the following contradiction. The Mishnah says, a pit, it has to be 10 tfachim deep in order to be able to kill. So too, anytime you're talking about something along those lines, it's 10 tfachim that's needed to kill. So why do they have to push them off from such a high area? Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba bar Avur. Rav Nachman says that Rabba bar Avur says Amar Krutz because the pasuk says v'yahavta l'recha kamocha, like we said above. You have to love your friend like yourself. Barulo misa yafa. You choose for him a good death, meaning you want him to die quickly, so you push him off a high area. The Gemara says yachi, if so, make it even higher. And the Gemara says to them mishum de menuvel, because then already when he'd fall off, the body would become disfigured, and that already would not be a misa yafa, so we don't make it too high. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said echad min ha'edim dochva, one of the witnesses pushes him. Tana Rabban and the rabbis taught minayin shebidachiyah. From where do we know that you have to push him? That's part of the death penalty of stoning. Talmud Lomar, the pasuk says yoro. It says the word yoro, and the idea of yoro is you throw him off, you push him off. Uminayin shebeskila, and from where do we know that they're stoning? Talmud Lomar sakol. The pasuk says sakol. And Rashi explains, Minayin shebidachiyah nidonu hanogim b'Har Sinai. This was specifically talking about those who touched Har Sinai, that they were going to be dachiyah, they would be pushed. Talmud Lomar yoro, losiga, it says yoro, yoro yireh lashon hashlocha. That's a language of throwing him down. Kamo yora vayom, like we find in the pasuk of yora vayom. And minayin sheskilas avonim huskrasham. How do you know that they're stoning using stones that we throw at him? Talmud Lomar sakol, du lashon avonim. The word sakol is a language of stones. He uses the word avonim in Sefer Devarim. So again, we know dechiyah from the pasuk yaro, and uminayin shebeskila Talmud Lomar sakol. How do we know skila? As it says in the pasuk sakol, uminayin shebeskila uvidechiyah. Now, how do you know that you use both of them if necessary? Rashi says uminayin shebeskila uvidechiyah im hutzrach l'shteyan. Let's say both are needed to kill the person. Kegon shedachfu v'lo meis. For example, they pushed him and he didn't die. Talmud Lomar sakol yisakel o yaro yireh. Again, the pasuk says you do both the stoning and throwing him off. And Rashi explains, Talmud Lomar ki sakol yisakelo yaro yireh ribuyu. It's an inclusion. Di chad minayu davka amar. Because if it was just one of them, oha, it was just either this one or that one. Lichtov ki sakol o yireh. It could have just said ki sakol o yireh. Minachsiv hani, from the fact that it says it in this double language, l'ribuye chasvino, we're doing it to include and to say that you should do both. Uminayin shemeis b'dechiyah. And the Gemara continues, the Brisa continues. How do we know that if he dies by pushing him off, yotza, that the obligation is fulfilled? Talmud Lomar o yaro yireh. Again, it says in the pasuk o yaro yireh. Minayin sha'af l'doros kain. How do we know that this applies even for all generations? And Rashi says shemeis b'dechiyah yotza. How do you know that if he dies b'dechiyah that's enough? L'kach nemar o l'chalik. What the Gemara means to say is that it says the word o to say that alone would be enough. It says o yaro yireh. That tells you that dechiyah alone is enough. Minayin sha'af l'doros. How do you know that it applies for all generations? Kol chayv eskila tei dechiyah sham. That anytime someone is chayiv to be stoned, you should push him off from a height. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Mem Hey Amid Beis.